before we get to your question, sorry guys, be a little patient, but we'll get to it in a moment, is an issue that popped up today for me, where I have a client who met somebody online and decided, hey, I love this person, we want to get engaged and want to get married. And after reviewing the case, typically these are normal cases people meet online all the time. Almost vast majority of my marriage green card cases are people who met online and stuff like that. However, for a fiance visa, they had adjusted the rules in 2005. And the initials of the rule is called the IMBRA, the Immigration, I forgot what the Marriage Broker Act or something like that. And the goal of this act in 2005 is to bring better protections for foreign fiancés and foreign spouses coming to the United States because, Congress, the US Congress thought that potentially there's people abusing foreign people, bringing them here and being abused in a certain way. So they passed certain requirements to be able to bring someone here. For example, if you're doing a fiancé visa, if you have a history of, domestic violence and stuff like that, they're going to prevent you from being able to use the fiancé visa program. There's a lot of other parts to it. But what really hit us in this particular case was where the petitioner had met the foreign fiancé through a website. Now, as I said earlier, most people are meeting their spouses or fiancés through a website. But there's a requirement that goes back to 2005 days. You gotta think old days, when they're marriage brokers, people you connect with and say, hey, I need to bring a spouse. And many times these spouses were from ex-Soviet Union countries, Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russian. You might as the name they called it as a whatever idiom, or not idiom, but example, they say Russian mail order brides, for example. Because of the worries of abuse to these so-called Russian mail order brides, which is just not from Russia, it's from all the world, they said that if you are dealing with a marriage broker, which is an entity, there's a legal terminology for this, but generally it's an entity who is involved in the connecting people for relationships. Then before that marriage broker can connect you with a foreign person, they have to do a certain amount of things, like getting certain pieces of information from the US person who wants to do a fiancé visa in the future and provide that to the foreign person, or else you cannot use the fiancé visa program. Now, none of my clients in the past, and most of my colleagues too, have not dealt with people who found their spouses or fiancés later on spouses through a marriage broker. So it's not an issue that typically comes up. But nowadays, with the increase of using relationship apps to find each other, these apps and these websites may be considered as marriage brokers. Now, the typical ones you think of that are popular in the United States would not fall under this category because there's an exception to being called a marriage broker, and it's something like this, where if the main goal of the company isn't to connect US people, citizens, with foreign people for relationships and marriage, and they don't charge like different prices for men or women or for people in a different country, then it's fine. And typically, these Silicon Valley apps that we see don't have that, so it's not an issue. But this particular website, the prospective client had met their spouse from, put it out there when you go to them, and they said, listen, we're essentially mail order bride system, and where our job is to primarily connect you with foreign women primarily, to be able to get them, marry them eventually. So the goal was for a marriage relationship between a US person and a foreign person, not a US person with another US person. There's this really foreign and domestic categorization there, whereas a lot of the apps that you're using don't care. They just say, okay, you're in LA, it's gonna show you the people around you. If you're in New York, if you're in Paris, it doesn't really matter. But this website particular did that, and they charge men that are joining it, but they wouldn't charge women. So after reviewing this and just frustrated because of the answer I had to give to the client, I said, listen, this is a marriage broker in my opinion, and they didn't go through the proper procedure of doing the background check. They need all this kind of stuff of you before they introduce you to your fiance. And now you're in bad luck because I don't think you could use the fiancé visa program because of that. You'll probably have to end up getting married. And so, they weren't thinking about getting married that quickly, they had to plan that out. But it's very disruptive to their lives. And what's most difficult is just the fact that how would you expect a regular person who's just trying to find love to know about these archaic and complex rules that even many immigration lawyers don't know about it. It's not something I've dealt with before, and I have to do research just the last few days on it once I noticed the website where they met. So be careful, be very careful as when you start down this path. It's just mired with landmines. And it's very difficult, and this IMBRA and the International Marriage Broker, IMB, can cause a lot of problems. I want to share that with you because we have a lot of couples here who meet online and are interested in the marriage green card case. Very important thing that pops up, and it just shows, like, with immigration, the laws are so intricate and each case has so many weird things involved that, you know, it's good to have a lawyer, and it's good to a lawyer that's going to check and recheck and search the laws and stuff, because it's complicated. And if this person who's about to file on his own but decided to get a lawyer, he would have filed this, spent thousands of dollars, and then in 2 years or so, or a year to 2 years, would have gotten it now and just wasted that much of his youth and her youth and their lives and money. So it's really good to be careful, but I want to share that with you. I hope you enjoyed this educational video. Also, you'll find our social media site has a lot more videos, images, and information about the U.S. immigration process. Please check those out on the various social media websites.